Look,
I know how this is gonna sound.
but I need to get this off my chest.
I'm Madison 32. And yes, I'm that. Nurse practitioner everyone's been talking about lately. The one who supposedly ruined her marriage because I was too materialistic. Or whatever. But let me tell you what really happened. Because honestly, everyone got it twisted. Before all this drama started, I was killing it at life. Like, seriously killing it. 6 figures at 32. My own luxury apartment in the nice part of the city. And a wardrobe that made my Instagram followers drool. Sure, my love life was a mess. But that's because most guys couldn't handle a woman who earn them. They'd act all cool about it at first. Then get weird when I mentioned my bonus was bigger than their monthly salary. Not my problem, they couldn't keep up. Then John came along. He wasn't even my type at first, like, at all. Don't get me wrong. He was good looking in that clean-cut way. But he drove this basic Toyota and lived in this modest apartment complex. I almost ghosted him after our first coffee date. But he had this persistence about him. Not in a creepy way, but in this steady, confident way that actually got under my skin. Plus, when I looked him up online, yes, I absolutely stalked his LinkedIn. I saw he was a project manager at this big tech company. The salary range wasn't bad. I kept seeing him mostly because he was so reliable. Like he actually showed up when he said he would, remembered the little things I mentioned, and didn't play those stupid dating games. After my last ex, who was basically a walking red flag with a gym membership, John's stability was kind of refreshing. Plus, he actually listened when I talked about work drama. Instead of trying to one-up me with his own stories, the whole thing moved pretty fast after that. Within a year, we were married, and I'll admit it felt right at the time. He made about $30K more than me, which wasn't exactly my dream gap. I always pictured myself with one of those hedge fund guys, but it was enough that I could keep up my lifestyle. We split the bills proportionally, which honestly annoyed me a bit, because I thought the higher earners should cover more. But whatever. He was adamant about us both contributing fairly. Everyone thought we were this perfect couple. He'd post these sweet anniversary messages on Instagram, and my followers ate it up. The comments were always like, relationship goals, and you guys are perfect together. If they only knew how much I had to coach him on his social media presence. The man didn't even have Instagram before me. Looking back, there were signs that we maybe rushed into things, like how he'd give me these looks when I'd come home with shopping bags from Nordstrom, or how he kept bringing up kids, even though I was clearly focused on making partner at my practice. But I figured that's just what marriage was, compromising and dealing with each other's annoying habits. Besides, compared to my friends' relationships, we were solid. No cheating, no crazy fights, just normal disagreements about money and timing and stuff. He supported my career. I supported his. And we had this comfortable routine. Sure, sometimes I wondered if I settled too quickly, especially when I'd see my single friends dating these super successful guys. But John was good to me, and that counted for something. Right, God? If I'd only known then what was coming, maybe I would have done things differently. Or maybe not. Because here's the thing about me. I've always known what I wanted. And what I wanted was someone who could keep up with me. In every way. I just didn't realize how quickly things could fall apart when life decided to throw us a curveball. The first year of marriage was different than I expected. Don't get me wrong, we were doing fine. Great even on paper. Our combined income meant we could afford this gorgeous townhouse in the trendy part of the city. But John was so annoyingly practical about everything. Like, when I wanted to redo our kitchen with marble countertops, he went on this whole thing about building our savings first. We had separate accounts and a joint one for bills, which he insisted on because of his financial independence, values, or whatever. I tried explaining to him that my shopping wasn't excessive. It was investing in my image as a healthcare professional. I needed to look the part. Those Gucci loafers. Professional necessity. The new Chanel bag, network building tool. But he just gave me that look. Especially when my credit card bill came in. He never outright said anything. But I could tell he was judging my choices. The real tension started building around the whole kids conversation. John kept bringing up how we weren't getting any younger. But like, hello, I was this close to making partner at my practice. Did he expect me to just put my career on hold? Every time he'd see our friends' baby photos on Facebook, he'd get this weird, quiet look. I'd remind him that my fertility wasn't his business to stress about, but he'd just say something about planning for our future. At least our social life was good. I mean, I was the one who got us invited to all the right parties and charity events. John would show up in his basic department store suits, while I was turning heads in, designer everything. Sometimes I'd catch other women checking him out, which was honestly flattering. Like, yeah, he's mine, even if he needs some style upgrades. Money wasn't technically an issue back then. John made good money, and I was doing well myself. But I started noticing little things that bugged me, like how he'd pack lunch instead of joining us for team lunches at work, or how he drove that same Toyota. Even after his promotion, he called it being financially responsible. I called it being unnecessarily cheap. I mean, what's the point of making good money if you're going to live like you're on a budget? We had this one big fight about my online shopping habit. I'd ordered this gorgeous set of designer throw pillows. They were on sale, by the way. And John actually had the nerve to say we should talk about our spending priorities.
Ming.
The one who paid all my own bills on time.
Meanwhile,
He was the one insisting on putting like 30% of his income into savings and investments. Such a waste, when we could have been living it up a little. But whatever. We were making it work. I figured marriage was about accepting your partner's flaws, right? Even if those flaws included being annoyingly frugal and constantly worrying about the future.
besides,
All my married friends said the first couple years were the hardest. We'd figure it out eventually. Then everything changed. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. There were rumors about layoffs at his company, but John was so good at his job. I never thought it would affect us. I still remember that night he came home early, looking like someone had died. Turned out, someone had our comfortable life. John had been laid off. Not just him, his whole department. Something about restructuring and outsourcing. Blah, blah, blah. I tried to be supportive, really. I hugged him and said all the right things about how we'd get through this together. But inside, I was freaking out. This wasn't part of my plan, like at all. The first month wasn't so bad. John had gotten a decent severance package, and he had all those savings he'd been so obsessed with building up. Plus, he was actually being pretty productive, updating his resume, networking, all that job hunt stuff. I even bragged to my work friends about how well he was handling it. So mature, I'd say, while secretly checking our joint account balance every night. But then 1 month turned into 2. Then 3. The job market was tough according to John. Every interview seemed to end with "will keep your resume on file." I started noticing little changes in our lifestyle. No more fancy date nights. My suggested weekend shopping trips got shut down. Even our grocery bills had to be optimized. Like, excuse me, I didn't go through years of nursing school to eat store brand cereal. The worst part one was suddenly the main breadwinner. Do you know how awkward it was explaining to my coworkers why I was bringing lunch from home instead of joining them at that
cute new bistro. Or
having to tell my sister I couldn't go on our annual
spa weekend because
we're being careful with money right now.
mortifying.
John tried to stay positive, but I could see him changing. He stopped dressing up every day. Apparently wearing sweats while job hunting at home was practical. The guy who used to hit the gym 5 times a week started stress eating and looking
Soft.
not terrible, but definitely not the guy I married. I'd catch him staring at his laptop late at night, scrolling through job listings with this defeated look. That just,
Ugh.
such a turnoff. Don't get me wrong, I still loved him. But love doesn't pay the bills or keep up appearances. Every time I had to use my own credit card for our joint expenses, a little piece of me died inside. This wasn't what I signed up for. I wanted a partner, not a dependent. The breaking point came when he started talking about maybe switching careers. Something about tech being unstable and wanting to explore other options. I smiled and nodded, but inside I was screaming. Other options, like what, taking an even bigger pay cut. The thought of permanently being the higher earner made me feel physically sick. I tried dropping hints about positions at my hospital's department. They didn't pay as much as his old job, but at least it was something. He just got quiet and said he needed to find the right fit. Meanwhile, I'm watching our savings dwindle, and my dreams of upgrading to that luxury condo complex downtown going up in smoke. My friends started giving me these pitying looks at happy hour. One of them even had the nerve to say I was lucky that John had saved so much money. Lucky. Please. I didn't need luck. I needed my husband to get his act together and start providing again. That's when I started having these thoughts. Thoughts I couldn't share with anyone. Well, almost anyone. My sister had always been my confidant, the one person I could be completely honest with. I just never expected that one phone call with her would change everything. It was a Thursday night, almost 11 months since John lost his job. He was in his home office, or what I now called his unemployment cave, probably sending out more resumes or whatever. I needed to vent, like real vent. So I grabbed my phone and a glass of wine and stepped out onto our back patio. I even closed the door quietly, being all considerate and stuff. My sister picked up on the second ring. "Girl, I'm about to lose it," I whispered, trying to keep my voice down. "I can't do this anymore. I can't." And then it all came pouring out. How I wasn't attracted to John anymore. How watching him job hunt was like watching paint dry. How I was tired of being the provider while he found himself. "I know this sounds awful," I said, pacing around the patio, "but I can't love a man who makes less than me. I just can't." It's like every time I look at him sitting there in his sweatpants, applying for jobs he's not going to get, something in me just dies. Remember how he used to wear suits every day? Now I'm lucky if he puts on real pants. My sister tried to be diplomatic, saying stuff like,
It's just temporary, and
"The job market is tough right now." But I wasn't having it. "No, listen," I said, getting worked up. "I'm married up, okay? John was supposed to be my upgrade from Brad, not my downgrade. He made more money. He had his life together.
now,
I'm basically supporting a house husband. Me, can you believe it? I was on a roll now. Wine in one hand, gesturing with the other. And you know what's worse? He's talking about maybe going into teaching or something.
teaching.
Like, what am I supposed to do with that? I didn't put myself through school and work my butt off to end up being the breadwinner, while my husband grades papers for a living. That's when I heard it. A small creak behind me. Do you know that moment in horror movies where the main character slowly turns around, knowing something terrible is waiting?
Yeah,
It was exactly like that. John was standing in the doorway, just standing there. I don't know how long he'd been there, but from the look on his face, it was long enough. Our eyes met, and I felt my stomach dropped through the floor. John the first started, but he just held up his hand. The look in his eyes. I had never seen anything like it. Not anger, not even hurt. Just this cold disappointment. Like he was finally seeing me, clearly for the first time.
keep going, he said.
His voice eerily calm. "Don't let me interrupt your, what did you call it, venting?" I scrambled to save the situation. "Baby, I didn't mean." "What exactly didn't you mean, Madison?" He stepped onto the patio. "The part about not being able to love someone who makes less than you." or the part about being embarrassed by your house husband. My sister was still on the phone, saying something I couldn't hear. I hung up without even saying goodbye. Everything was spiraling out of control so fast, John. You're taking this all wrong, I said, trying to sound reasonable, even though my heart was racing. I was just frustrated. You know how I get when I've had wine. It didn't mean anything, but the way he was looking at me, like he was seeing a stranger, told me this wasn't going to blow over. With a simple apology and some tears, I'd finally done it. I'd said out loud what I'd been thinking for months.
And now?
Now everything was about to explode. Why did you even marry me? John's voice was so quiet it scared me. Was it just because I made more money than you? At the time, was that the only reason? Of course not. I snapped back defensive. You're twisting everything I said. I was just venting to my sister. Everyone vents. Vents. He laughed, but it wasn't his usual warm laugh. Madison, you were saying you can't love me anymore. Because what, I lost my job. Do you think I'm going to be unemployed forever? Do you think I'm enjoying this? I felt cornered. When he put it like that, I sounded horrible. You don't understand. Do you know how hard it is for me, having to be the responsible one while I would, his voice rose slightly, while I spend every day sending out applications, while I use the savings I built up, which, by the way, you always complained about me building, to keep us afloat, while I watch you act like me, losing my job as some personal attack on you. Oh, don't act all high and mighty. I was getting angry now, too. You've completely let yourself go. Sitting around in sweats all day, stress eating. 11 months he cut me off. That's all it took. 11 months of hardship for you to completely give up on me. After everything I've done for you, everything you've done for me. I grabbed the nearest thing, a decorative vase from the patio table. I wasn't going to throw it at him, just near him. Maybe. Like what? Making me split the bills even when you made more. Being cheap about everything. John's eyes locked onto the vase in my hand, and something in his expression changed. Are you serious right now? You're actually thinking about throwing that? Because what? I called you out on your superficial bullshit. The vase was shaking in my hand. I wanted to throw it. God, I wanted to throw it so bad. But something in his eyes stopped me. This wasn't some dramatic movie scene. This was my marriage imploding in real time. You want to know what I've done for you? His voice was deadly calm now. I supported your shopping addiction while building our savings. Savings we're living on right now. I never complained when you bought designer everything while I was trying to plan for our future. I loved you through all your materialistic nonsense because I thought there was more to you than that. The vase slipped from my fingers, but he caught it before it hit the ground. Even now, he was preventing disaster. Guess I was wrong. He continued, placing the vase carefully back on the table. You know what the saddest part is? I actually started getting calls back this week. 2 companies want second interviews.
But now.
I'm wondering if I even want to stay married to someone who only loves me when I'm providing the lifestyle she thinks she deserves. John, wait. But he was already heading inside. I'm going to stay at Mike's tonight, he said over his shoulder. And Madison, almost a year. That's all it took for you to show who you really are. I just wish I'd known sooner. I stood there on the patio, my wine glass forgotten, watching through the windows as he packed a bag. Part of me wanted to run after him, to explain that he was taking everything wrong, that I didn't mean it the way it sounded. But another part, the honest part one usually kept buried, knew that everything he said was true. And that terrified me more than anything. That was a year ago. The divorce was quick. John didn't even fight me on anything. He'd landed a new job 2 weeks after moving out. Some fancy position that probably paid more than his old one. Not that I'd know. We haven't spoken since that night, except through our lawyers. I'm still at the same job, still making good money. But dating, that's a whole different story. I tried the apps, but do you know how hard it is to find a quality man in his mid-30s who makes good money and doesn't have baggage? I mean, I'm still hot. I work out 5 times a week and get plenty of matches. But these guys, they're either divorced with kids, living in their starter homes, or making less than me. And I'm sorry, but I learned my lesson about that last one. My sister says I'm being too picky, that I need to adjust my standards. Easy for her to say. She married her college sweetheart who now runs his own business. She doesn't understand what it's like out here for a successful woman my age. Like this guy last week, he was cute, owned his condo, but drove a Honda. I'm not trying to repeat my mistakes. The worst part, I had to watch through social media as John moved on. He's dating some kindergarten teacher now. Yeah, real step up there, buddy. But he looks
Happy.
actually happy. Not Instagram filter happy. My friend who still follows him said he bought a house in the suburbs. Apparently, Little Miss Elementary Education doesn't mind that. He packs his lunch every day, sometimes late at night after a particularly bad date, or when I'm scrolling through my credit card statement. I think about what he said, about me showing who I really am. But what's wrong with knowing your worth? What's wrong with wanting a man who can provide the lifestyle you're accustomed to? Sure.
I'm alone right now.
Sure, my friends have mostly taken his side, which is ridiculous, by the way. And yeah, maybe I spend too much money trying to keep up appearances. But I'm not settling. I refuse to be one of those women who ends up supporting a man just because she's afraid of being alone. I saw them together last week, John and his new girlfriend. They were at that coffee shop where we used to meet after work. She was wearing some Target-looking dress. Nothing special, but John was looking at her the way he used to look at me. They didn't see me. I made sure of that. But watching them, laughing over their probably non-fat, sugar-free whatever, I felt something.
Not regret exactly.
More like awareness of how quickly everything can change, of how one moment of honesty can destroy years of carefully built appearances. But you know what? I'm Madison. I'm successful, independent, and I know what I want. And what I want is a man who can match me, financially, socially, everything. So, what if that makes me picky?
So, what if I'm alone for now?
At least I'm not pretending to be happy with less than I deserve. Though sometimes in those quiet moments between Instagram posts and dating app swipes, a tiny voice whispers that maybe, just maybe, I had it all wrong about what I actually deserve. But I pushed that voice away because admitting that would mean admitting that John was right. And I'm not ready for that, not now. Maybe not ever.